Now, I think it's pretty safe to say that the future of the Star Wars universe seems to be quite expansive, not just with their new Star Wars comics, books, novels, and video games, but we also have a lot of new Star Wars TV shows and movies that are currently in development by Disney and Lucasfilm, and exactly how it's all going to interconnect with each other. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you are new to the channel for future Star Wars updates. Also, by the way, guys, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support. It is greatly appreciated. Now, one thing about Disney Star Wars that a lot of Star Wars fans out there are very eager to know more about is exactly what Jon, George, and Dave are going to be unveiling at, of course, this year's celebration and next year's celebration. They have a lot of other unannounced Star Wars TV shows that are currently in the early development phase or pre-production that are going to really make up a majority of this new Star Wars universe at hand. Now, with that being said, we already know that Favreau and Filoni are making sure to take a lot of highlights from Star Wars Legends, such as the Thrawn trilogy, the new Jedi Order books, and a lot of other aspects of Legends from the 1990s and the early 2000s. Now, with that being said, however, we already know that there are a lot of things being done between, of course, Disney and Lucasfilm to properly adjust between both Star Wars Legends and the already existing Star Wars canon, and exactly how it's going to exist within each other. Now, on top of all of this, what's even all the more intriguing has a lot to do with what Jon Favreau went through for a very long time, and exactly how it actually affected the Star Wars franchise as we speak right now. You know, we already know that there's been a lot of problems behind the scenes between Kathleen Kennedy and the Acolyte TV series, and how it's going to impact the prequel trilogy with a lot of retcons that are going to be used in the Acolyte TV show. However, on the other hand of things, when it all involves Jon Favreau, this is where things begin to escalate quite drastically. Now, with the Ahsoka series now filming both, of course, between Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni working on the show, both Disney and Lucasfilm are beginning to prepare to announce a host of new Star Wars shows by this year's and next year's celebration event. Now, it's described, however, that some time ago, Jon Favreau was in trouble with one of the Star Wars TV series for Disney Plus that was in development for a good year. This was up until a certain point where Kathleen Kennedy got involved on a creative scale and caused creative differences behind the scenes between herself, Favreau, and Filoni. This project was Rangers of the New Republic that eventually was fully cancelled and remains to this day off the roadmap of Star Wars. The big plan that Favreau had with the show that he was writing with Dave Filoni was going to explore the lives of characters like Luke, Han, and Leia, as well as Cara Dune. In the beginning, when Kathleen Kennedy still actually held creative power, Jon Favreau was pushing to move ahead with the series to include Cara Dune. Favreau wanted to keep Gina Carano attached to the show even after she was fired from the series. This, of course, caused a ton of problems and a ton of tension between Jon Favreau and the Disney executives at the time, and that by the middle of 2021, Jon Favreau was pushed to actually get rid of course, a lot of aspects of the Rangers of the New Republic series and eventually cancel all of it. He was pushing for Gina Carano to stay on board of the Rangers series, where it progressed to a point where Favreau almost got let go from the new Star Wars universe for trying to push the story for Gina Carano to be involved with a show that would also focus on the Battle of Jakku and the return of the original trilogy trio, such as Han, Luke, and Leia. Now, let me just stop right here for 1 second. Now, this, of course, really goes to show you exactly what was going on in the middle of 2021, or early 2021 more specifically. So in early 2021, there was a lot of problems happening with Rangers of the New Republic. A lot of this had to do right after when Gina Carano got fired. Jon Favreau was really trying to stand up for her and keep her on board of this particular series, because it was going to involve a lot of Legends characters, a lot of original trilogy characters, like I said, Luke, Han, and Leia, as well as the addition of Cara Dune to be embedded within the story. Now, this caused a lot of problems between Favreau and the higher-ups over at Disney, and even Bob Chapek at the time, where it really created a large chunk of tension over at Lucasfilm. And it eventually, of course, worked itself out, thankfully, but back then, you know, early last year caused a lot of issues between Favreau, Kathleen Kennedy, the Disney CEO, and others out there. And it's exactly why Rangers will never see the light of day, unfortunately, but there is a plan to actually revive elements of the show to actually be used in numerous new Star Wars TV series moving ahead. Now, currently, of course, Favreau, on top of that, Favreau, of course, wanted to make it clear to fans that he was trying to save the future of Star Wars at the time, when Kathleen Kennedy was still calling the shots of the Mandoverse aspects. This eventually progressed to a point where even Disney CEO Bob Chapek had to get involved and made a deal with Favreau, which was to stay on board of the Star Wars franchise or cancel the Rangers series. Favreau was essentially forced to cancel the Rangers series, and it took months after that for Favreau to finally convince the Disney executives that Gina needed to come back for The Mandalorian Season 4. Now, the plan now by Favreau is that he will be taking key elements from Rangers and using them in new shows. This is all approved by Bob Chapek and the Disney higher-ups, who initially had a big struggle with Favreau and why he was so quiet during the summer of 2021. So you guys may recall that we didn't really hear all that much from Favreau in the summer of last year. We really heard not a lot from Favreau on Rangers or about Gina Carano as Cara Dune. It was very, very quiet. We didn't hear all that much about that, and that was a lot to do with all the problems that were arising between himself and Disney. So it really got to a point where Favreau almost got let go and fired from actually, leading the Star Wars universe and leading all of these new Star Wars TV shows that are being set up as we speak today. So, on top of this, Bob Chapek eventually warmed up to Favreau's ideas and eventually allowed him to revive many elements, of course, of Rangers to be used in the new shows that will surprise the entire Star Wars community. So, before we get to the next thing, I just want to point out here is that, as of now, Disney is all good with Favreau, thankfully, but back then, there were a lot of issues rising between Favreau, the Disney CEO, the Disney executives, and the higher-ups. There was a lot of trouble going on between Favreau and his take on the Star Wars universe, and specifically Rangers of the New Republic, which, by the way, in case you guys did not know, that was going to be a very ambitious, expanded Star Wars story. It was really going to give fans a lot to explore and witness in the show, because they wanted to treat this as basically another foundation that would be used to create a branch of other Star Wars TV series, kind of like with what The Mandalorian did, and how that specifically spawned the Ahsoka Tano series and even the Boba Fett TV show, just as a prime example there. So, moving on, of course, from all of that, we already know now that Kathleen Kennedy no longer has creative power on anything that comes after the Obi-Wan Kenobi TV series strictly. We already know that everything related to what Jon and Dave are working on specifically with this new universe moving ahead is all non-Kathleen Kennedy related. Even the Kenobi series used very minimal Kathleen Kennedy creative input, very minimal, to the point where you might see a little sprinkle of Kathleen Kennedy's take on the Star Wars universe here and there in the Kenobi series, but it's going to be pretty minor. So on top of all of that, guys, I think that at the end of the day, Jon and Dave know what they're doing. Jon got into a lot of trouble last year. Thankfully, that all cleared up. But overall, guys, drop a comment below. Let me know about all this in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.